have the video sped up like 300%, so it's going really fast, but figured that'd be better than you watching me draw for an hour. So this piece is going to be Iron Man eventually. I'm going to do the pencils, the inks, and then colors. Right now I'm just kind of throwing down lines. I'm not trying to overthink it too much. I kind of knew the pose that I wanted. I sketched it out a few times trying to figure out exactly what I wanted to draw. And now I'm kind of putting it down for final. You can see those perspective lines a little better now. Just to make sure the elbow lines up and the rib cage goes across at the right angle. I've noticed if I don't draw those lines in for myself, I'll start trying to turn the shape so that it's face on, because it's easier to draw. And so long as I have those lines there to guide me, it kind of forces me to keep that foreshortening in place. Couldn't quite figure out where those lines on the stomach went, so I think I ended up drawing them at more of an angle. Just doodling in some background. I figured he'd be in a factory or some kind of mechanic type warehouse or something. Now I'm erasing it all. I was really sloppy with that. That was just more of like a quick sketch. So now I'm kind of taking all the scribbly lines I had in place just to kind of leave like the base structure there so that it's not confusing, and then I'm going to go in and make it more defined and try to figure out what the lines were actually saying. I think that's a good thing to do, because sometimes when you're really sketchy like that, everything looks fine, and then you go to ink it and you can see all the mistakes you had. So if you go back and erase it down just to leave like a really faint outline of the drawing, and then go back and do these pencils almost like you were inking it, you can see the things you did wrong and fix them before you get to the inking stage. Or you can lie to yourself and say that you'll fix it in the inking stage, but I find I just end up making the same mistake. So going back in and kind of doing these final pencils, I found just saves me a lot of time and gives me a chance to fix all the mistakes. Really liking how big his head looks right there. I think I ended up shrinking it down. Yeah, so even though these are supposed to be my final pencils, they're not really, because when I went to ink it, I ended up shrinking his head, and also that shoulder guard thing, I ended up making it smoother because it looked too blocky, not sleek and fancy like the Iron Man suit should be. That piece on his chest and also in his hand are going to be like kind of like an energy effect, so I'm not putting too much detail around there because it should be getting lost in all the light. Recording this video on my iPhone, rubber banded to a microphone stand, so I can't really see what I'm recording, so I tried to pay attention using the little circly lines on my drawing table there. I should move it up here in a second. You can see I shrunk the head down. I think before I started inking and before I hit record again, I saw how big it was and I erased it. Took it back down some. Oh. There we go. Working on a tiny little sketch card like this is fun, but when you have to go in and do the details, it's a little tricky. Especially since I'm trying to hold the card up so that it stays in the camera. It was a little tricky when I was doing the inking. I'm just using a Pitt pen, P-I-T-T, for this inking. Sometimes I use a brush, but I just like the control that the pen has. You can see I left the, didn't even ink over on his chest right there, and leaving a lot of open space around his hand there also. That's because I'll be using the markers and stuff to define that more. Just drawing in some of the background. I don't know what those things are. I guess like hooks and pulleys and whatever you would find, I would guess you would find at a mechanic store. Some rafters up there. I'm not going to do too much with the background because I'm just going to color it all one solid color, so I knew I didn't need too much definition back there. Just enough to kind of hint at a location. Oh. As you guessed, I probably, I'm voicing this over after the fact, and also there's a slight delay on my voiceover recording or whatever, so you might not be seeing exactly what I'm seeing as I'm talking, but it should be pretty close. I think it's just a few seconds. think I'm going back. I was using a extra small Pitt pen to do all the inking, and now I'm going in with the small to do some outlines and to define some areas better, like the hands and the arm, and then also add a little bit of shadow in some places, just to try to give that sense of depth. Of course, I'm a little bit off camera. I think I do a much better job when I get to the coloring part. It's just really hard to ink because you want to make sure you get the perfect line, and it's hard to do when I'm trying to hold the card in front of the